Hello everybody, my name is Ratnos, and in today's video we are going to take a look at the Shaman talent trees, finally, here on the Dragonflight Alpha. Video was late, sorry I was out of town, then I was sick, and hopefully as the future talent trees come out on the beta builds, on the alpha builds, we'll have these videos out within a day instead of a week of when the talents actually come out, but I figured it was still worth it to actually make this video and get this out just so that I have all the talent tree ones. It's also worth noting that several of the other talent trees have been getting updates. I'm still not 100% sure how I want to cover that exactly, but it's worth noting that like Hunter's gotten huge changes since my initial video to it came out. So there are a lot of good signs in terms of how these trees are being iterated upon. So for starters, just my knowledge of Shaman. I mained Elemental Shaman in Unat and Ajara on those tiers, and played a little bit of Battle Shaman as well on some of those bosses. That's Resto Shaman, where you basically just DPS and you cast Spirit Link Totem and Healing Tide or whatever, and otherwise you're just DPSing. Haven't really played too much Enhancement. Played a little bit this expansion, but really not very much. So that's where we're at. As always, we just I like these videos just kind of reading through the talents and seeing where things are, and not providing a huge amount of actual Shaman insight. So if you're looking for that, there are other sources for that. In fact, there'll be a video coming out on the GG WoW channel with some Shaman experts soon. So let's start by looking at the Shaman class tree. At the top, you have a lot of actives that have been historically just kind of baseline abilities. When you spec Elemental, you get Chain Lightning and Lava Burst for free. Up here we have Astral Shift, and over here we have Chain Heal. And then Earth Alley, Wind Shear. Here we have a choice between Astral Shift, reducing damage taken by an additional 20%, so bringing it up to a 60% DR, versus reducing the cooldown and increasing its duration, taking it from a 2-minute cooldown to 1.5 minutes, and bringing the duration up to 14 seconds. So these passes are both really strong. Astral Shift already here, just the 2-minute 40% DR mode that they're offering, is a pretty potent effect, but being able to choose between either of these for raid encounters is big if you have the talent points available. A lot of good stuff on this tree, though. Over here we have Ghost Wolf, removing snares, increasing movement speed by an extra amount at the start of its use, versus the Spirit Wolf effect, which is damage reduction in Ghost Wolf, that has also historically sometimes been useful actually in raid fights to get a little bit extra DR. Frost Shock over here, and then Maelstrom Weapon here. When you deal damage, you have a chance to gain, or when you deal damage with a melee weapon, you have a chance to gain Maelstrom Weapon, stacking up to 5 times. This is currently an important part of the Enhancement damage kit, so I imagine you'll be taking that if you're Enhancement. If you're Elemental or Resto, I don't think you will need to click this button. Down here we have Earth Shield, and then increase all fire and frost damage you deal by 3%, so seems like a pretty good node for Elemental at least. Capacitor Totem, and then Cleanse Spirit, removing all curse effects from a friendly target. Focused Insight, casting Flame Shock reduces the mana cost of your next heal by 10% and increases its healing effectiveness by 15%, so potentially a PvP-oriented spot here. Maybe something you would take as Resto, I guess, as well, but probably not something you're too interested in. Elemental Orbit increases the number of elemental shields you can have active on yourself by 1. You can have Earth Shield on yourself and 1 ally at the same time. So Lightning Shield is baseline, so you can have that and Earth Shield on yourself, and then you can put Earth Shield on somebody else. Spirit Walker's Grace, obviously very powerful effect for Resto, and Ellie as well can talent into this. Increasing Leech and Avoidance by 3%. Tremor Totem, removing fear, charm, and sleep effects. This thing's actually really good. This effect is valuable well, I don't know what the dungeons look like in Dragonflight, but there were a few in Shadowlands it was good for, and it was actually really good on Mythic Jailer as well. In P2, if you were targeted by the MC, you could just tremor yourself out of it. It only affected you, not anybody else in your party, but it's still really powerful. Over here we have Guardian's Cudgel. Whenever Capacitor Totem fades or is destroyed, another one is automatically dropped in the same place. I assume this only triggers once. Let's, how does this work? So if I drop one, static charge, and then it's going to fade, right? and it goes again. Does it just keep going forever? No, okay, yeah, of course. So you only get the one extra capacitor totem, versus reducing the cooldown by 5 seconds for each enemy stunned, up to a maximum reduction of 20 seconds, which means the cooldown could be as low as 40 seconds on your stun totem. This is an existing talent, I think. This one's cool, though, the getting a second one after you're stunned. You could double stun. That actually could be good in PvE as well in M+, but it seems like it'll be really annoying in PvP. Hex. And then over here, Flurry, increasing your attack speed by 15% for your next 3 melee swings after dealing a critical strike with a spell or ability. So a little bit of crit scaling over there. Okay, once you've spent enough points up in the top of the tree, you get down to this row, and this row is all choice, basically. So the first choice is between Spirit Walker's Grace making you immune to silence and interrupt for 5 seconds, versus reducing the cooldown and increasing your movement speed in Spirit Walker's Grace, reducing it to a 1-minute cooldown. Over here, we have Earth Grab Totem versus Windrush Totem. Obviously, you'll know which of these you want in most cases. In most PvE cases, especially in Raid and stuff, Windrush is really good. Although Earth Grab, obviously, is a powerful effect in M+, potentially sometimes. Greater Purge purges the enemy target, removing 2 magic effects, versus Regular Purge, removing 1 magic effect. Greater Purge costs a little bit more mana and is on a cooldown, whereas Regular Purge isn't. Enfeeblement, when Hex ends, the target's slowed, versus Voodoo Mastery, reducing the cooldown of Hex by 10 seconds, taking it down to 20. Nature's Fury, increasing the crit chance of your nature spells by 2%, over here. Down in the next row, reduce the cooldown of your totems by 2 seconds. Reduces all damage taken by 3%. Nature's Guardian, a very powerful passive. When your health is brought below 35%, you instantly heal for 10% of your max HP. Cannot occur more than once every 45 seconds. And let's just see what happens when you put an extra point into this. And then, so it becomes a 20% heal when you have 2 points in it. Winds of Alakir increases the movement speed bonus of Ghost Wolf by 5%, and when you have 3 or more totems active, your movement speed is increased by 7%. Ancient Ankh Talisman, while Reincarnation is off cooldown, your max health is increased by 10%. While you're at full health, Reincarnation cools down 75% faster. This was like an Azerite trait or something back in the day. Healing Stream Totem, and then Improved Lightning Bolt, damage of Lightning Bolt. Totemic Projection relocates your active totems to the specified location. I wonder if this works with like a capacitor totem, if you could do like a last second move the stun. Gust of Wind, making a return here. This was a very commonly requested thing for shamans. It is kind of under some of this enhancement stuff over here, but still, very powerful little effect. There's also a potion in Dragonflight that lets you basically get a Gust of Wind, so you may not need it as much. Spirit Walk removes all movement impairing effects and increases your movement speed, so a little sprint there. All right, then we get down to the bottom. So on the Shaman tree at level 70, you're going to have 11 total points to spend below this row, or including this row. Starting off with Swirling Currents, using Healing Stream Totem increases the healing of your next 3 healing surges by 12%. And then let's see what happens if you put 2 points into this thing. Second point in it brings it up to 25%. Okay. Nature Swiftness, your next healing or damaging nature spell is instant cast and costs no mana. Thunderstorm, anybody can take Thunderstorm, not just Elemental, so that is a big development for Enhance and Resto, although not 100% sure that Enhance is going to be able to get over here and spend these points. Maybe they will. Maybe they will. Totemic Focus increases the radius of your totem's effects by 7%, increases the duration of Earthbind and Earth Grab totem, increases duration of all your healing totems. So, cool little effect there on totems. Surging Shields increases the damage dealt by Lightning Shield and causes it to generate Maelstrom when triggered, increases the healing done by Earth Shield. Go with the Flow reduces the cooldown of Spirit Walk, reduces the cooldown of Gust of Wind. Of course, you only have one of those. Mana Spring Totem summons a totem for 15 seconds that restores 50 mana when you cast Lava Burst to your party. Interesting effects there. Over here, we have either Lightning Lasso, a PvE option now for Lightning Lasso, although it's not doing % health damage anymore like the PvP talent did. Thundershock. Thunderstorm knocks enemies up instead of away, and its cooldown is reduced. So potent, potentially, turning it into a knock up instead of a knock back, still can be used to stop things in M+, although the knock back, the knock away, is a pretty powerful part of Thunderstorm, especially on like Sanguine weeks. Also, a knock up type effect. Drakthir have one of those as a racial, so a lot of groups are going to have that if you're playing with a lot of Drakthir, which you might early expansion. Poison Cleansing Totem summons a totem that removes one poison effect every 1.5 seconds for 6 seconds from party and raid members. So if there's ever a boss in Dragonflight that's doing like AoE poisons, this is going to cleanse your whole party over 6 seconds. Pretty powerful. Call of the Elements, 3-minute cooldown, resets the cooldown of your most recently used totem with a base cooldown shorter than 3 minutes. All right, then down to the bottom, we have Ancestral Guidance. For the next 10 seconds, 25% of your damage and healing is converted to healing on up to 3 nearby injured party or raid members. Notably, yeah, you can take this thing as Resto now, and that may well be a good cooldown to have. Tranquil Air Totem, 1-minute cooldown totem, prevents cast pushback and reduces duration of all incoming interrupt effects by 50% for party members within 30 yards. So obviously this reads like a PvP totem, but there are PvE encounters where I guess usually if you're getting interrupted, that usually means you screwed up because usually you know when it's coming and you don't have to get interrupted. Cast pushback, I guess probably also not really a thing, so probably not something you need to worry about. Versus Stone Skin Totem, a 30-second cooldown totem that lasts for 15 seconds and reduces physical damage taken by party members within 30 yards by 10%. So this is actually potentially quite a strong effect in Mythic Plus in the right cases. I mean, 10% physical damage reduction for your tank even is something, so cool little effect there. Finally, down here at the bottom right, we have Creation Core, Call of the Elements effects, an additional totem. That's the one that resets, so it'll reset your 2 most recently used totems. Versus Improved Call of the Elements, making it a 2-minute cooldown instead of a 3-minute cooldown. All right, so that's a Shaman tree. There's a lot of good stuff in here, a lot of powerful effects. Getting stuff like Thunderstorm, Ancestral Guidance, Gust of Wind, depending on how you're moving through here, Spirit Walkers, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, a lot of this stuff Shaman used to have by baseline up at the top of the tree, but overall, you don't have to spend that many points to get back what you had baseline, and you can skip the things that you don't want or that you don't need, depending on the situation. It's a very full tree. Almost all of these things are 1-point nodes, except for these 2-point passive nodes. And that means that it looks like a really big tree. It looks like there's a lot of stuff going on in here, but compared to some of the other trees that have a lot of 3-point filler that you have to sink into, this one you're going to be able to click on a lot of this tree. So I like the look of this quite a lot. Let's move over to Elemental now, as I move my microphone out of my way so that I can see the right-hand side of my screen. We got Earthshock up at the top, then Earthquake over here, Elemental Fury, that's the passive that makes crit scale well for Elemental here. Fire Elemental, cooldown here, 2.5-minute cooldown. Then we have 3 choice nodes on the next row. We have Inundate, your successful purges, cleanses, Cleanse Spirit, Healing Stream Totem, Hex, and Wind Shear cast generate Maelstrom during combat, versus increases the chance for Earthquake to knock enemies down, which, yeah, obviously could be quite good in M+. Earthquake knocks in M+ are quite valuable, so increasing that by 50%, I assume that makes it, 7.5% chance on damage to knock. Cleanse Spirit, Wind Shear, Purge, and Totem casts no longer cancel Ghost Wolf, versus your healing crits heal for 250% instead of the usual 200%. Over here, while you have an elemental active, your damage taken is reduced by 5%, versus your healing surge is 30% more effective on yourself. So 6 different situational effects that you're looking at here, and you need to take one or multiple of these to actually progress further down the tree. I like this a lot, actually. So let's assume we wanted something like that. Increase the damage of your Lightning Bolt, Chain Lightning, and Storm Elemental by 15%. Casting Lava Burst increases the damage and healing of your next Nature, Physical, or Frost spell by 15%. The Master of the Elements, this effect has been in the game before. Lava Surge, your Flame Shock dot, has a chance to reset the cooldown on Lava Burst and cause your next Lava Burst to be instant. So, yeah, both of these effects seem like standard Elemental. You usually are going to want both of these, I think. Maybe, I guess they've played without Master of the Elements sometimes, but yeah, it depends on how good the points are further down the tree. Let's say we wanted to just do like this. High voltage, lightning bolt generates additional maelstrom. Ice Fury, a 30-second cooldown. Ice Fury is an interesting one. Some people do not like this effect much at all. I was initially one of those people. I started playing with it a little bit. I played it a little bit on like Queen Ashbane, or not Queen Ashbane, but Lady Ashbane in Eternal Palace. And it's actually pretty skill intensive. It's a 30-second cooldown, and it lets you use your next 4 Frost Shocks for damage. So you cast Ice Fury, and then you set up like a 15-second window while you have this Ice Fury buff where you can move, and you have 4 good globals on the move. So if you're thinking ahead, it lets you do a lot on the move. Spelling Maelstrom, increasing your maximum Maelstrom by 50. Lava Burst having an additional charge over here. And then Call of Fire increases the damage of your Flame Shock, Lava Burst, Lava Beam, which is the Chain Lightning and Ascendance, and Fire Elemental by 10%. So passive, a lot of passives here that just represent damage for sure. Down here we have Stormkeeper, charging yourself with lightning. I mean, obviously everybody knows what Stormkeeper does, right? You fist up at the sky, then your next lightning bolts or chain lightnings are very cool. Electrified Shocks. Ice Fury causes your Frost Shocks to damage up to 4 additional enemies, and targets hit take 15% increased damage from your nature spells. Chain Lightning prefers targets with this effect. So this creates a cool thing that didn't used to exist, an Ice Fury AoE thing. So with this, you'd go like Ice Fury, Frost Shock, Chain Lightning, Frost Shock, Chain Lightning, Frost Shock, Chain Lightning. Could be pretty cool. Versus instead, a single target version of this, casting Frost Shock increases the damage of your next Lava Burst by 20%. So either way, you have a way to make Ice Fury play a little bit more with the kit than it used to. Aftershock, chance to refund all Maelstrom on your Earthquakes and your Earth Shocks. Flames of the Cauldron, Flame Shock's damage over time effect now occurs 15% more quickly, which of course means more Lava Surge procs. Improved Flame Tongue weapon, imbuing your weapons with Flame Tongue increases your fire spell damage by 5% for an hour, and you have Flame Tongue. Flame Tongue is just baseline as well, so you can just take that easily. Casting Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning reduces the cooldown of your nature spells by 1 second, reducing the Maelstrom cost of Earth Shock or Earthquake. 2-point talent here, Casting Lava Burst has a 5% chance to cause your next 2 Lightning Bolts or Chain Lightning cast to trigger Elemental Overload an additional time. Reduces the cooldown of Flame Shock by 1.5 seconds. Default cooldown here is 6 seconds, so if you take this, you could get it down to 3 seconds on Flame Shock. That's actually really big for multi-dotting type situations. The 6-second cooldown on Flame Shock was a big, limiting factor for doing that well. Storm Elemental over here, that replaces Fire Elemental, and it lets you stack up your Lightning Bolt or Chain Lightning cast speed, although only by 3%, stacking up to 10 times, so you'll only get 30% off of the cast. It's not as broken as it has been in some previous, like when it could stack up to 20 and stuff. Okay, down here we have Elemental Blast. This is a 1.7 second cast that harnesses the raw power of the elements, dealing elemental damage and increasing your crit strike or haste or mastery by an amount for 10 seconds. And obviously if this thing overloads, you'll get 2 stats. Versus Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence. When you cast Earth Shock, gain Lava Surge and increase the damage of your next Lava Burst by 20%, which I think is existing elemental stuff, legendary or something. Primordial Wave here, the Necrolord ability. 45-second cooldown that then lets you Lava Burst all targets affected by your Flame Shock on the next time you cast it. Ascendance versus... so Ascendance, 3-minute cooldown that... is 15 seconds and gives you no cooldown on Lava Burst and increases the damage of Lava Burst by an amount equal to your crit strike chance, because of course Lava Burst is going to automatically crit, assuming it's hitting a target with Flame Shock. And when you transform into it, it instantly sends a Lava Burst at all enemies affected by your Flame Shock. And it refreshes your Flame Shock durations to 18 seconds as well. So you could imagine serious burst here if you set up your Flame Shocks and then you do Primordial Wave, Ascendance, Lava Burst, and you're just sending 2 Lava Bursts at all the targets that have Flame Shock. Deeply Rooted Elements, on the other hand, gives Lava Burst a 7% chance to activate Ascendance. So either you can choose Ascendance as a button you can press, or as just a proc that can happen. Over here we have Liquid Magma Totem. AoE totem thing versus Primal Elementalist that lets you control your elementals. They do more damage, and they have additional abilities. Notably, this comes with a shield wall on your Earth Ellie that can be pretty powerful for PvE. Down here, Echoes of the Great Sundering, another legendary, I believe. After casting Earthshock, your next Earthquake deals additional damage. Dealing direct fire, frost, and nature damage within 10 seconds increases all damage dealt by 7% for 10 seconds. This effect can only occur once every 30 seconds. Primordial Wave has a chance to not go on cooldown. Increases the damage dealt by your elemental overloads. While Ascendance is active, gain haste. Flame Shock damage has a chance to generate a Maelstrom. Good for multi-dotting, obviously. Magma Chamber. Flame Shock increases the damage of your next Earthshock, Elemental Blast, or Earthquake by 0.5%, stacking up to 20 times. So yeah, a lot of support here potentially for... Although multi-dotting, like the AoE for Shaman's always been kind of awkward, because whenever they do this kind of stuff where it like feeds into your Maelstrom, the more Maelstrom you have, the more of your globals are going into Earthquake instead of into your, you know, your cool fire spells and stuff. And so there's kind of some inherent breaks in the system that it creates with the way that it's set up. Stormkeeper, so another charge of Stormkeeper available down here, versus Lightning Rod. Your Earthshock and Earthquake casts have a 100% chance to make your target a Lightning Rod for 8 seconds. Lightning Rods take 100% or 25% of all damage you deal with Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning. Interesting. So I wonder if Earthquake is going to affect all targets or not. I guess I could go test that real quick. Test to see if Earthquake applies Lightning Rod to multiple targets. I can do that. So yeah, even if it doesn't, even if it just puts it on the primary target, this is still a nice little bit of AoE, although Stormkeeper is really nice. An extra charge of that would be cool. So I want to just drop an Earthquake and see how many things get Lightning Rod. Let's just build a little bit of Maelstrom and send it. So this one has Lightning Rod. These two do not. Okay, yeah, so it actually just does it on your primary target. Interesting. Then here we have Splintered Elements. Each additional lava burst generated by Primordial Wave increases your haste by 6% for 12 seconds. So that's really good with like the Wave into Ascendance combo. Mountains Will Fall. Earthshock and Earthquake can trigger your Mastery at 50% effectiveness. Overloaded Earthquakes do not knock enemies down. Okay. Yeah, Mastery still tends to not be a great AoE stat. Triggering it on your... Making your Earthshock benefit a little bit from it maybe increases value on single target a little bit, but... Again, it's still... Mastery in AoE is this very weird stat where the more Mastery you get, the more Maelstrom you're getting, the more Earthquakes you're casting, the less you're benefiting from Mastery, because the less you're casting the things that Mastery actually triggers off of. So if Earthquake does benefit from Mastery, maybe that will change that paradigm a little bit, but I'm skeptical. Further Beyond... That's like a Dragon Ball Z meme, right? Casting Earthshock or Earthquake while Ascendance is active increases the duration of Ascendance by 3 seconds. Oh, so you keep an Ascendance going for quite a while. Versus Skybreaker, and then finally Skybreaker's Fiery Demise. Flame Shock crits, reduce the cooldown of Fire Elemental, and Flame Shock has increased crit chance. All right, well, there's the Elemental tree. I like the look of this quite a lot. This seems like a tree where there's a lot of good stuff. Choosing what to put points into and what not to put points into seems like it would be quite hard in most situations. On pure single target, obviously you can probably just drop most of the Earthquakey stuff and be pretty happy, but even still, there's some optionality here that seems pretty interesting. So, yeah, that's Elemental. Let's go take a look at Enhancement. All right, so Enhancement, wow, we got Thrall in the background here. Starts off with Storm Strike, then Wind Fury Weapon, and Lava Lash. So, okay, you pay the tax here to get these abilities you've always had. I don't complain too much about that. I know there are a lot of people who are like, there shouldn't be anything that used to be baseline on the trees, but I don't know. I mean, while you're leveling up, I think that it makes the like first 10 or 20 levels or whatever of the character feel pretty good as you kind of get these default abilities. Feel yourself like powering up and actually kind of get to choose which way you're going first. Third row, Forceful Winds. Wind Fury causes each successive Wind Fury attack to increase the damage of Wind Fury by 35%. Improved Maelstrom Weapon. Maelstrom Weapon now increasing the damage or healing of spells it affects. Lava Lash. Lava Lash cooldown reduced by 3 seconds, and Lava Lash is used against, I assume this should be if. And if Lava Lash is used against a target affected by your Flame Shock will be spread to up to 2 enemies near the target. Down here, Wind Fury Weapon has a 40% chance to trigger a third attack, versus Maelstrom Weapon can now stack 5 additional times. Feral Lunge, 30-second cooldown. Gap Closer, a little bit of physical damage as well, but we don't care about that. Primal Lava Actuators, Shadowlands Legendary. Each time Flame Shock deals periodic damage, increase the damage of your next Lava Lash and reduce its cooldown. Versus Primal Primer, melee attacks with Flame Tongue active, increase the damage the target takes from your next Lava Lash, stacking up to 10 times. So, pretty similar type effect here, stacking damage up onto your next Lava Lash. It's just a question of whether it's on the melee attacks or the Flame Shock damage. I assume the Flame Shock damage one is going to be the better one in AoE, but I'm not 100% sure, because that can be on more targets than your autos, right? Doom Winds, 1 minute cooldown, increase the chance to activate Wind Fury Weapon, and increase damage dealt by Wind Fury Weapon for a few seconds. This was a legendary in Shadowlands that triggered once per minute when you dropped your Wind Fury totem. So they've moved it off of that and just made it its own button, which does seem pretty nice. Seemed like a nice little quality of life increase. Although I guess now you'll have to press this and Wind Fury Totem if that's still in here, which it is, yeah. So maybe it's kind of reverse quality of life depending on how you look at it. Sundering, obviously we know what Sundering is, right? The little thunk thing forward that incaps things that are hit. Overflowing Maelstrom, your damage or healing spells will now consume up to 10 Maelstrom Weapon stacks, versus Maelstrom Weapon now increase the damage or healing of spells it affects by 5%. So 2 different ways to kind of take it. I'm not sure which of these would be better. If I had to guess, it's probably Focused, but maybe if your rotation is really overloaded, really crowded, you'd want the overflowing one instead. Fire Nova, which erupt a burst of fiery damage from all targets affected by your Flame Shock, dealing damage to up to 6 targets within 8 yards of your Flame Shock targets. Versus Hailstorm, each stack of Maelstrom Weapon increase the damage of your next Frost Shock. Each stack of Maelstrom Weapon consumed increases the damage of your next Frost Shocked, and causes it to hit an additional target, up to 5. Versus Elemental Weapons, all fire, frost, and nature damage. Down here, Stormbringer, your attacks have a 6.5% chance to reset the remaining cooldown on Storm Strike. Ancestral Wolf Affinity, you can do, this is on the Elemental tree as well, where you can just do some of your stuff in Ghost Wolf, versus Healing Surge being more effective on yourself. That exact same choice, I think, was on the Elemental tree. Crash Lightning, AoE button. Obviously, you'll know when you want this, whenever there's going to be multi-target. Storm Flurry. Storm Strike has a chance to strike the target an additional time for 40% of its normal damage. This effect can chain off of itself. Ice Strike. Striking your target, slowing them, increase the damage of your next Frost Shock. So it seems like kind of some icy PvP stuff over here, the AoE kind of stuff in the middle. That I imagine the single target elemental build or enhancement build is actually fairly easy as a result of this, because you just don't click on those things, and then you've got all of the rest of your talents. Here we have Elemental Blast, improved Stormbringer. Stormbringer now causes your next Storm Strike to deal additional damage as nature. Gathering Storms, each target hit by Crash Lightning increases the damage of your next Storm Strike by 2%. Crash Lightning does hit all targets, so this gives you some degree of funnel. Actually, Enhancement's always kind of had this, even going back to like BFA, this funnel that you'd get where when there was actually a lot of targets, your main target would be taking a lot of damage from your Storm Strikes. Chain Lightning upgrade. Each target hit by Chain Lightning reduces the cooldown of Crash Lightning. So you have very important stuff for the AoE rotation. Not important at all for single target. You don't need to take those. Hot Hand. Melee autos with Flame Tongue Weapon active have a chance to reduce the cooldown of Lava Lash and increase the damage of Lava Lash. Swirling Maelstrom, Ice Strike, and Fire Nova now also grant you some Maelstrom Weapon. Primordial Wave is here again, a Necrolord ability. I think this was a good one to bring forward. Primordial Wave was a fun button. Feral Spirit, nice little 2-minute cooldown, giving you some Maelstrom Weapon stacks and doing some damage. Ascendance, transform into an Air Ascendant. giving you, still giving you wind strikes and giving you some range while it's active. Primal Maelstrom, Primordial Wave generates 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon. Elemental Assault, Storm Strike damage is now increased, and it generates a stack of Maelstrom weapon. Witch Doctor's Wolf Bones, I think this is their current M+ legendary, or maybe the raid one. Increases the chance to gain a stack of Maelstrom weapon, and whenever you gain it... Oh no, this is just the one that synergizes with their set bonus or something, right? Cooldown of Feral Spirits is reduced. Legacy of the Frost Witch, consuming... I think this is another legendary. Consuming 5 stacks of Maelstrom weapon will reset the cooldown of Storm Strike and cause your next Storm Strike to deal additional damage. Static Accumulation, while Ascendance is active, generate 1 Maelstrom weapon stack every 1 second. Splintered Elements, each additional lightning bolt generated by Primordial Wave increases your haste. Alpha Wolf, while Feral Spirits are active, Crash Lightning causes your wolves to attack all nearby enemies. Ooh, if that's a lot of damage, that could be good. Versus reducing the cooldown of Feral Spirit and causes them to be imbued by different elemental effects, which I assume, so that's obviously the one you'd take on single target. Thorum's Invocation. While Ascendance is active, Windstrike automatically consumes up to 5 Maelstrom weapon stacks to discharge a lightning bolt at your enemy. Ooh, that actually seems good, because I remember, at least when I was playing some Enhancement in Shadowlands, during my Ascendance, like, having too much to do. So casting some free spell, or casting some spells, right? Like, this gives you extra globals, basically. Okay, the Enhancement tree, a few points seem like the kind of standard type. You can take this if it's an AoE situation, right? Like, Sundering, Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning. I guess maybe not Sundering, but Crash Lightning, Chain Lightning, these kind of effects. You literally just don't click these nodes, click some other nodes in single target, and then you click these in M+. But overall, especially looking at the bottom of the tree, I don't know which of these are better. Now, I'm not an Enhancement scientist, so I wouldn't necessarily know which ones were better, but at least it seems like some interesting choices exist on this tree. Obviously, you are obligated contractually to select this button so that you can enter a raid encounter, but given that button is still there, Enhancement Shamans will likely still get to enter raid encounters, kind of regardless how much damage the spec is doing. Not fully regardless, but this, depending on how, the Arms talent tree and stuff and the Havoc talent tree looks like, could represent a lot of extra damage for your group. All right, let's finish things out with a look at the Resto talent tree. We start off with Riptide, Healing Rain, Healing Wave, Healing Stream Totem. Okay, so you can get an extra charge of Healing Stream Totem off of the class tree. Deluge, Healing Wave, Healing Surge, and Chain Heal. Heal for an additional amount on targets affected by Healing Rain or Riptide. Water Shield, Mana Healing, or Mana Shield effect. Tidal Waves, and I guess it synergizes well with Elemental Orbit as well. You could give yourself Water and Earth, and you could give your tank Earth. Tidal Waves, casting Riptide, grants 2 stacks of Tidal Waves, which makes your next Healing Wave or Chain Heal or Healing Surge better. Down here we have Acid Rain. Ooh, this was a Torghast power that made your Healing Rain do damage. In Torghast, it was broken beyond literal belief, and you did more damage than DPS players by stacking this power. Versus Call of Thunder, increasing the damage of Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning. Okay, so 2 DPS options over here. I like that. These are 2 pretty different DPS choices, too. Overflowing Shores, Healing Rain instantly restores health to 6 allies within its area, and its radius is increased. And I think that's a Soulbind, or a Conduit, maybe, currently, maybe. Or an Azurite trait, maybe it used to be. Lava Surge, the proc, is available here for Resto. Flash Flood, when you consume Tidal Waves, the cast time of your next heal is reduced by 10%. Water Totem Mastery, consuming Tidal Waves reduces the cooldown of Healing Stream, Healing Tide, Mana Spring, Mana Tide, and Poison Cleansing Totem by 0.25 seconds. Down here we get the Cleanse Spirit, Wind Shear, Purge, and Totem Cast no longer canceling Ghost Wolf. Versus Stormkeeper, you get Stormkeeper as a Resto Shaman, cool. Increasing duration of Riptide, Spirit Link Totem, okay. Obviously we know we are clicking on this button for Raid. You actually don't need to click on this button necessarily for M+, but you're clicking on this button for Raid for sure. Master the Elements, Lava Burst, increasing the damage or healing of your next Nature, Physical, or Frost spell. Wow, there's a lot of damage talents on the Resto tree. I like that. Healing Surge is more effective on yourself. Cloudburst Totem versus Healing Stream heals for more each time it ticks. Cloudburst has historically been really good. A lot of the healing that Resto does is, especially good Resto Shamans, is in the Cloudburst effect, but this passive, if it's strong, could be a nice way to make a simpler spec too. Here we have Ancestral Vigor, giving you increased health on your targets. A nice little effect. Nice little way to buff your Demonology Warlock's damage, if they still keep health scaling next expansion. Healing Tide Totem. Okay. Resurgence, your direct heal criticals refund a percentage of your maximum mana. This is an important passive for raid mana sustain, but now that it's a talent, eventually you could definitely click this thing off once you're on deep farm. Mana Tide Totem. Torrent, increasing the initial heal of Riptide. Wow, there's so many choice nodes on this. Look at this, another row with 3 choice nodes. Here we have Flow of the Tides, casting Chain Heal on a target affected by Riptides, consumes the Riptide, and increases the healing of Chain Heal. That's kind of cool. Versus increasing the bounces and healing of Chain Heal. Okay, well, that's probably just better and doesn't take away your Riptides, although 30% more healing on Chain Heal is a lot. Unleash Life, a effect that increases the effect of your next healing spell when you press this, and it's on a 15-second cooldown. This used to be a talent, and I always remember you would take this talent was like slightly harder to play, but it was always been pretty good. Undulation, every third healing wave or healing surge heals for an additional amount. Echo of the Elements, an extra charge on Riptide and Lava Burst. APT, Ancestral Protection Totem, 5-minute cooldown, so you can't use Call of the Elements to get a second one or anything like that. But this has been a very powerful effect on several raid encounters. Multiple times per expansion, there tend to be fights that you can Ankh Totem for big value, so really potent effect, remains Resto specific. Versus Earthen Wall Totem, which is obviously much more valuable in general, but if this is ever being used to cheese a mechanic or something, it's really, really, really good. Earth Living Weapon. Imbues the Shamans with Earthen Life. It gives your Riptide, Healing Wave, Healing Surge, and Chain Heal healing a 20% chance to trigger Earth Living, which puts a hot on the target. Okay, so just a little passive hot that you'll be putting out if you talent this. Primordial Wave again, so all 3 Shaman specs can take Primordial Wave. Ancestral Awakening, when you crit with Healing Wave, Healing Surge, or Riptide, you summon an Ancestral Spirit to aid you, instantly healing the lowest percentage friendly party or raid target within 40 yards for 10% of that amount. Oh, that's cool. So that's just passively going to be providing some extra healing to the lowest person in your raid. 10% of the amount healed, so not a huge amount, but nice little bit of extra value. Another thing that scales with crit as well. So you have Ancestral Awakening, you have Resurgence, a lot of effects that want you to scale some crit onto your Resto Shaman. Okay. Earthen Harmony. Earth Shield healing is increased by 50% if your Earth Shield target is below 75% health. Healing Wave and Healing Surge. Add a stack of Earth Shield to your target, up to 9 maximum stacks. Cool. Undercurrent. For each Riptide active on an ally, your heals are more effective. Improved Primordial Wave increases the healing done of your next Healing Wave, and that Healing Wave, of course, will affect all targets affected by your Riptide. Downpour. 5-second cooldown, healing up to 6 injured allies within 12 yards, increased for each target effectively healed. So, actually, it's going to be more like a 30-second cooldown generally if this is getting value. Nature's Focus, primary target of your Chain Heal is healed for an additional amount. Ever Rising Tide, 30-second, overcharge your mana, increasing haste, not hate. Increasing healing done, but while overcharged, your mana regen is halted. Earth Warden, more healing on your Earth Living Weapon random hot things, and it always triggers on targets below 12% of their maximum health, which I assume is 25% when you put 2 points into this thing. Let's see if it affects the other part of it as well, though. Hang on. Let me put some points on the tree. Okay, yeah, increases the healing of it by more as well. So 30% more healing on Earth Living, and it always triggers on targets below 25% of their maximum health. Okay, 25% of your maximum health, that's still a pretty low threshold, but it's enough that you might trigger it for value sometimes. Tumbling Waves, Primordial Waves has a chance to not improve its cooldown, or to not trigger its cooldown, versus reducing its cooldown to 30 seconds. So on the face of it here, 15 seconds is more valuable than 15% to not incur its cooldown, because 15 seconds is 33% of its cooldown that just always gets taken out by continuous waves, and it's more reliable. I suspect that if people are talenting these, they'll generally spec continuous waves, and tumbling waves does not look particularly competitive, but that's just my initial read here. High Tide, every 20,000 mana you spend brings a High Tide, causing your next 2 chain heals to heal for an additional 10% and not reduce with each jump. You have 50,000 total mana, at least at level 60. I don't know if that goes up. I don't think it does. So this will trigger a few times per raid fight. You probably burn through like 100,000 mana on a raid fight or something, maybe more. I actually don't know what mana regen per minute is. Versus every 4 caster Riptide, also applying Riptide to another friendly target near your Riptide target. Again, very good if you're if you want the thing where it's like each Riptide you have out, you get 1% more heal. Ascendance, 3-minute cooldown, immediately healing and duplicating all healing you do for 15 seconds, distributed evenly among allies within 20 yards. And then finally, we have either Wellspring, 20-second cooldown that sends forward a big wave of healies, versus Deeply Rooted Elements, giving you a chance to proc Ascendance on your Riptide. All right, so again, the Resto tree looks pretty cool. A lot of points available that you can spec for damage near the top of the tree, or you can just avoid the damage nodes mostly. And yeah, you're gonna want Spirit Link, Resurgence for raid for sure, like Healing Tide Totem, Mana Tide Totem, right? Like you got to find a way to get to this middle part of the tree. The bottom stuff all seems good though. It's going to be hard to choose which 10 points to spend, at least currently for me, it looks like it's going to be pretty hard. It may end up being true that you could just kind of chop one branch off of the tree and there's like a generally right thing to do, but at least thinking about it, the Resto tree is looking pretty cool as well. Again, just not a lot of 3-point nodes in here, which is really nice. In fact, I don't think I've seen a 3-point node in the Shaman trees at all, which is a really good sign. The 3-point nodes are so much less cool and fun than the 2- and 1-point nodes, and it means that you get so much less stuff on your tree. So, yeah, Shaman's looking good. Obviously, I'm sure many of you have already watched other people already talking about the Shaman tree, so that may not be news to you, but that was my first look at these trees, and they definitely seem pretty good. Hope you enjoyed the video. Should be coming in with whatever the next talent trees they put up and whatever the next beta build is more promptly. But thanks for sticking it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.